mix on that vocal. Nah, the mix to that beat is crazy. The reason you clicked on this video is for one thing and one thing only. When it comes to you mixing your beats and melodies, you feel like it don't sound like the pros? Well, today I'm going to be showing you how to mix a melody and beat like the pros. So, right, let's get straight into FL. So let's play the first instrument that I added, which was the piano. This is the main sound in the melody. So what I made sure doing was having its sadness, but still being present in the mix. So the velocity is about half. So the effects I have on here is reverb. The wet is up at 39% and the dry is at 100. Decay is at 5.3 seconds. And you can move the low cut depending on the sound you want. The low cut basically means the more high this wheel is, the less of the low end that is reverbed. Next plugin I have is an EQ, just cutting out the low ends because I want space for the bass. And the last plugin I added was an EQ, just cutting out the high ends. The reason I cut out the high ends is in some pianos, there's this annoying hiss sound. So this is just a piano preset I just chuck on and I use a majority of all my beats. So the second sound I would have added would have been this vocal. So we've sent this to number 7. And what I have on here is Valhalla with the decay all the way down and the size moved. I think it's normally at 100% when you open Valhalla. So mine's at about 34, mixed down to halfway. And I've mucked around with the low cut and high cut when playing with the vocal. And this basically just adds like, I don't know how to explain it. It just sounds like an empty, tight room. So I've got an EQ on here. So the only frequencies that are present are the mid-range. So the next sound I would have added would have been a bass. And this is the bass on its own. And what I've added on the bass is fruity EQ again, just cutting out all the high end, because the reason why I EQ out the high end on this is because I just want the low end. No other frequency. I don't want it to clash with anything else. So that is at around about 500 hertz. And the last sound I had on it was Vintage Chorus. It's just when you load it up, this is what you got. And I just turn the noise down because you don't want that going through your track. Now, I would have added things like the pads. So the next sound I added would have been these pads. So this is Omnisphere. The sound we're using is a Rhodes piano. But I've made it sound more like a pad / texture. So let's open up the mix on this. Again, I really love this plugin. Vintage Chorus, normal preset, just turn the noise down. Somatics Origin plugin. This just adds a vintage feel to the sound. So we've got some saturation movement. I've turned down the real noise again. I don't want the annoying hiss. Just a boring sound. Added some sort of, vintage feel to it. The last plugin is Valhalla. And I think this is literally just loading up Valhalla and me just changing the mix. Right, this is the second pad sound. And that sound is a UAD synth called Aussie Squares. So the first sound I added was Somatics Origin plugin. Again, to add that vintage feel. Then we've got Vintage Chorus. Yet again, I love this plugin. And this is a stock FL plugin. Noise all the way down. Normal preset again. And the fruity parametric EQ again, giving me the mids. Now, the last couple of sounds here are just accents. And the mix they have on those, again, Somatics Origin plugin. Vintage Chorus. And Valhalla Vintage Verb. Again, just a stock sound. I've just turned the mix down. And that's very low in the mix, because I just want it to be a background sound. I've also got other versions of the vocal. I've got one that's up an octave and one that's just filtered. And then we've got this perk loop here. Love filter. EQ to just take out a bit of the low ends. And Valhalla, vintage verb, just 13%. Right, that's all the sounds with effects. However, the main issue and the reason why your melodies and beats are not sounding like the pros is because of gain staging. And this is a really important part. Gain staging is basically a point where the engineer adapts the volume. This is a very, very crucial point. If you can put your engineering hat on right now, your beats will sound like the pros. One thing I always look for when it comes to gain staging my beats is really where the sound needs to be. Obviously, I wanted the piano to be the main sound, so I want that to be prominent. So when I play you this loop, you're gonna hear the piano and the vocal being the second main instrument. Hear this. So I'm always looking for pockets, and if the pockets are filled, I don't add anything else, because then that's just doing too much. And that's what I've said in other videos, like, don't overthink your melodies. When you think it's enough, it's probably enough. I'm not going to go through the volume on all of these sounds because it is by choice and it is by ear. So I always make sure the main sound of the song is prominent, and then you basically just have like accents, pads and stuff. Like, imagine a canvas with just loads of colors everywhere. That's how I imagine a beat. I imagine sounds poking out this ear at this degree and something down here. Like, I want the melody to have much feel, so when it comes to the consumer, they get a feel off the melody too. However, when it comes to me actually mixing beats, I'm probably going to upset a lot of producers. I don't really do much mixing. I don't even send half the sounds to the mixer. Let's open up the drums. So the majority of the mixing done for these is just actually on the little, I don't even know what these wheels are called, channel volume, maybe. 808 has to be clipping. Like, if you're using a Spins 808, it just has to clip. But when it comes to me making my beats, I use an 808 and a Spins kick. So I try and get the right volume. I just do it by ear. So the Spins 808 and kick, I basically just turn down to the point where I'm like, okay, that sounds good on my ears. The hi-hat, it's just the sound dragged in on a pattern. The volume's not even changed. There's nothing. Got a rim. However, this I remember sending to the mixer 15, and I've just added the slightest bit of reverb. I mean, the wet is at 15%, and I've even put the mix to 25. Open hat, again, probably just dragged it in and turned it down by channel volume, which I didn't even change the channel volume again. The crash sound. Again, didn't even send it to the mixer, just moved the channel volume. The next sound is a triangle, and yeah, again, just brought the sound in, didn't change the volume. Next sound is like it's a drill perk. It's like a tambourine. I mean, added the sound in, changed the volume to 66. And the last sound is a metro. I don't even really know what the sound is. I love it on the last snare of the 8 bars. And you might ask him, well, why I don't mix my sounds and they don't sound like the pros. And the reason being is the fact that I've had a couple of years experience and I've picked out sounds that just are mixed well. If you have good sound selection, the chance of you actually mixing the sounds is like next to none, because the sounds are pretty much mixed already. All you might have to do is just adjust the volume. You won't have to put any other effects on it. I mean, I always make sure to look out for good drum kits, and a person who makes really good drum kits is Ellis Lost. I mean, some of the drum kits he's sent me are just, I mean, it's all a producer starting out needs. If you use the tips that I've shown you in this video, being the ways you should find pockets and sound selection, then I can almost guarantee that if you use these tips, the next beat you make, you can count yourself as a professional. Guys, I hope this video has been able to help you in any way, shape or form. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I shall see you in the next one.